Right, we'll try and fit in another game of rapid chess. So we're just approaching 680 games of rapid now, nearly there. So 1662, good luck. So we have white for this game. Again, another relatively new account, 2 in a row, 95 games for my opponent, it says there. And only 8 in Blitz, that's why it's a provisional rating. So yeah, new account. How do I want to do this? I'm just going to go very slow and steady does it. Slow and steady does it. Let's play c4. I mean, it's more than enough games my opponent has played to establish a rating, but obviously you never know how accurate or not it actually is or isn't until you've played, a lot more games. But 95 games is enough to establish a baseline. Bishop down, then pawn up. I'll play a pawn up just to cover the bishop and the knight coming forward anyway. Then I'll castle. It's becoming a lot more fashionable to push the pawns early on these days for both sides, just because of these annoying jumps forward that you've got. It's my natural style. I tend to go slow and steady, does it? Take that cautious approach. No, I think a bishop block here is fine. It's whether I want the knight here or not. I think we get in a development move with a bishop, so we'll do that anyway. It's just whether we go one of these three ways, because the knight could be nice on c3. So I could take this one, I could take the queen. I think I'll just castle as well there. But we've got the option obviously to play knight up if he doesn't actually take, or we can just take allow knight here. Oh, is there a potential for a trick there? Knight up. Oh, it's not really a trick, but you might get a pawn structure broken. If you take, we take here. If you take, we take here, and then we can take back. So that's the potential. So we lose a knight, gain a knight. And if you move your knight here, well, I guess the queen does cover on it, so it's not really a threat. Let's just develop our knight then. Rook across, bishop back, queen up, that's a concept, but obviously it's difficult to create any real threat. Black's perfectly solid here. Okay, does take, so I assume I want to go with the bishop. I don't think I'm going to be playing this in a hurry, so I'll take back with a bishop and put it on this diagonal. And if I do push and push, it opens it up. But if I push this way, I'm not really going anywhere. Okay, it comes forward. So now we do have this option again. Takes, we take here. The knight needs to move, but I don't see that I'm creating any real threats. Maybe rook across first then. Just so we can create some sort of threat with, say, a long distance attack to the pawn if we jump in. Takes, takes, the knight moves somewhere. Can we just sack the pawn to try and open up the scope for the bishops and then open up the scope for the rook? Something like that. It might be nothing. So another way rook across here, but my opponent could obviously do the same thing. It's not easy to create anything here. So he's played knight forward, attacking my bishop. Now, I don't think I mind if he takes there, but queen up might be a move. He could maybe come forward, but it's still fine, but potential problems coming. But if he takes, I can go with a pawn to kind of keep this guarded. But I've got the immediate knight down. If bishop down, we can then take. If he plants a pawn, it feels fine. Knight up, takes, takes, just feels a bit dicier now. Queen up, bishop down, there's no way to easily deal with that. So I like the idea of knight back, just to challenge that before the bishop comes down. I might be mistaken, of course. If takes, I think I'll just take with a queen. I don't see anything better. He does take, but do I want to drop the bishop back so I can try and release my queen? And we get a double attack, don't we? It brings the bishop off this diagonal, but it does create a potential for a threat, but it's easy for him to deal with it. I'm going to do it though, just because there's a potential for a threat if he misses it with a double attack. And it opens up the scope for the rook, but we might have to try and start pushing these pawns. Okay, so he's played queen up, so he might have actually missed it there. So I've got queen up here. Threaten mate, threaten the pawn. How does he deal with that? It looks like a pawn, so I'm going to go for it. But further down the line, it could open the scope for my opponent's bishop, so it could be a poison pawn, but if we get a chance to take it, I think we'll take it. Okay, so we'll take it, and we'll probably drop back. If we could trade the queens being up a pawn, it should be good. We could go here, but he'd probably deal with that. So if we go back, trade, in that position, actually, it would lose the h3 pawns. That wouldn't be quite so good. Just need to make sure we're not getting trapped. Oh, he's offered to do the trade himself. That should be very good for us. Okay, we're up a pawn. I'm quite happy to play endgames with anybody and everybody. So my pawn will come under attack, so I can push one of them. I can try a counter attack or go here. I assume he'll take with a bishop, but let's just see. He does. So I can go here and try and trade that bishop as well. Or I can push one of the pawns. Does it matter? How do we do this? How do we do it? If I go here, I think he can just maybe step out the way, and I'm not really gaining anything. If I do that though, once I push the pawn, it's weakening the white squares for my opponent's bishop. If I go here though, then they're on the light squares to be a target. If I go here, we're threatening to simply take the knight. If the knight moves, we're threatening to take a pawn. So I like actually bishop in over. If he takes here, I'll take his knight, and then we'll try and capture this way. Okay, if the knight goes back, I can take here, I think. We're threatening to push as well, but I think here we just simply take. Take, keep it simple. Pawn up is not a move. So I think we just take and take. Just try and play simple chess as much as you can. So we hit another 2. Our pawn is obviously under attack as well. So we could, if he takes, we could try and use it as an opportunity to develop our rook, but it's probably best just to take one of these pawns. So does it matter which one we take? Here. I like the idea of developing my rook. This position is basically okay. And he can't really go back and retreat and defend everything. So I'm going to move the rook across, and then I'll take one of these next move. I'm not sure which one is best. I'm not sure which one. Probably this one. But if I go here, I double up, but he's covered the corner anywhere. So I'm going to take this one. If we trade, I can blockade the file. It's just whether I can get this pawn as well. But we're what, 2 pawns up now? So he's offered the trade, so we can just take, grab another pawn. There's no rook check. He can come in and we can go here, then check, step up, and we're fine, aren't we? So it should be good to trade. It's whether I can just take this pawn without blundering anything, or whether I go here first. It looks fine to me to take. Rook down, I just play bishop c3. Everything's guarded. Check. My king's got the bailout square. There's no easy, obvious attack. So I think it's safe to take the pawn, so I'm going to take it. Okay, he's gone across, so I think this is where we just move our bishop up. Don't need to think too long about that one. And then in time, we can try and push forward and bring our king to the middle. Probably best to have the rook on a dark square, though, just so we don't blunder the attack from the bishop. So I think I'll actually just drop back to chase the bishop there. But make sure they're on a dark square, then there's no accidental slips if we have a lapse in concentration, which does happen. Now I like the idea of just trying to take center control and then just push forward and slowly bring the king into the middle. Okay, his king's come forward, so it's tempting us to go forward there with 2, but is that wise? It's probably perfectly fine, isn't it? It stops him advancing, it creates an immediate threat. Our king can still come up. He's got this, but our king's in time to get there. Okay, let's go up 2 then, just because of the obvious threat. Now he can drop back and get on this diagonal, but we're in time to defend. We can always push if we need to. Obviously, otherwise it's just an immediate one-move threat there. There's not a lot black can do, of course, given the extra pawns we've got, barring some slip or mouse slip or whatever, but they do happen. Okay, he's gone back, so I'm just going to bring the king up. Or should I march forward first? No, I'll bring the king up. The king should be good in the center, trying to guard all the pawns. We can try and step forward and open up the diagonal at some point as well, but no rush. I just want to win the game. Not too bothered how I win the game, just want to try and win it. So he's come forward. So that would be nice to trap the rook. But I don't see it being necessary right now. I like the idea of this pawn forward, actually. That looks good to me. Because we're advancing in the middle and we're opening up the scope of the bishop at the same time. And we'll try and put the rook maybe on the 7th rank. Now that pushes us there. So we'll go here, create a natural threat. He might have to go back. We can just start marching forward. I'll bring the king up first. I guess we could push these as well. We've got lots of ideas. We just need to try and avoid sloppy blunders now. Okay, he's come forward, so we can take a pawn and threaten another pawn, so that looks good. So I don't see any reason not to do that. Take. I mean, if he takes, our rook is still fine. It's a little bit riskier going onto a light square, but we're going to take because there's another immediate threat. Okay, so he's gone back, so we can actually take here, come back, and then trade. But the thing we don't do is leave our rook here now, because it allows rook takes, bishop undermine the rook's defense. But he goes here, we can come all the way back and collect his bishop, or we can just trade the rook. There's no actual checkmate though, so I think we should just come back and throw a check in and hit the bishop. Okay, he's gone back, so we'll take the bishop. Okay, so he's retreated. I think I just bring the king forward now. Actually, I could go here first and cut the king, couldn't I? Yeah, that's probably sensible. Stop the king from marching forward and then bring our king up. So we just have to pay attention to the clock and make sure that we don't flag ourselves or something really bad goes wrong, which could do. There's nothing wrong with my opponent playing on just in case we blunder a stalemate or we flag. Okay, so he's come across. Is there any trick there just to try and generate a pin? I'm looking to try and get the king here, I mean, so we can pin the rook. We can check there. If you go here, oh actually, yeah, does that do it? It does, doesn't it? That's a nice way to end the game, I think. If you go here, we come back and we win the rook. But if you go here, we can actually temporarily sack our rook in order to collect our opponent's rook. So that's a nice way to finish the game. Removes all the risk. Now we can just go here and pin, and okay, we lose our rook, but we gain a rook, so it removes all of the risk. So just step up here. I mean, there's still technically a pawn on the board, but obviously it would need a calamity for the pawn to become a queen. That doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but That's a nice way just to, in principle, finish the game. Just like I say, barring some sort of stalemate, but there's nothing wrong with our opponent playing on just in case, because games do go wrong. I'll now push forward here, so there's no easy way through. Just try and bring the king up, try and push forward. Obviously we've got this one. So from my opponent's point, they just need to make sure they try and play quickly and get up on the clock as opposed to being that bit down on the clock, just in case something goes wrong. Just in case. Okay, so I'm just going to push the pawn now. Distract the king to go back over, and just push another one. Okay. Let's throw in a check and then come forward. So this is why you just got to pay attention that you don't allow a stalemate, but we know there is a pawn push that can happen, so there can't be a stalemate while the pawn can be pushed. So we're just threatening to check and just march forward. Obviously the king does have alternate squares as well, I'm aware of that. Okay, we'll bring the king up, just try and drive our opponent further back. The bishop could be a potential hindrance, because then there is a risk of stalemates if you get the king on a light square and the bishop blocks a dark square, so it is possible to go wrong. But we just, in principle, march our pawns forward now, keep the bishop out of the way. Okay, the king shuffles across. So everything's winning. I mean, we could do this, this, and this because there's a potential pawn push, but it is a slight risk. But here, if you go here, we can check and queen the following move. Everything's winning. Because I know there's a pawn push, it's less risk, but it is possible to go wrong. Like I can go here and it's checkmate next move. So I can go here, you step up, queen. Actually, that's mate as well, is it? Is that a forced checkmate? That's your only legal move. We promote to a queen there, and that's a checkmate as well. But that would be nice to kind of smother the king in. But if there wasn't a pawn push, that would be a stalemate. That's why you play on. And obviously, it's going to be checkmate next move now. That's why you just got to pay attention, just in case. But that's the only legal move when we do this, and then that's checkmate. So it's safe to pre-move that. Okay, we got a win, but decent effort by my opponent there, so well done. So put that through the engine like we do with all of them. And that is, what, 49 moves we've made it up to, so let's see how the game actually went. Obviously, it was a comfortable game, so it doesn't really matter what the accuracy figures are when it's a comfortable game. It doesn't matter what level you play chess at. The figures tend to be better when you get more comfortable games like that, and when you're playing stronger players who make the games more difficult, your figures tend to plunge. When my accuracy figures are good, my opponents often tend to be as well, just because I try to play good principled chess. So that's often my opponent does likewise. So the figures could be good for both of us here. Yeah, 97% versus 92% accuracy. No bad blunders from either side. 12 center pawn loss for me and 33 for my opponent. And my average is 32. That's what my average normal typical game is. It just so happened that my opponent obviously got into a worse position, but then found good move after good move after good move. So that's why the figures are actually good. So that's a decent effort, so well done.